In the news tonight, His Majesty the King joins a celebration marking Labor Day at the King Abdullah Industrial Estate in Sahab and hosts a lunch banquet in honor of the estate's labor force. A bomb blast near the former Interior Ministry in Damascus kills 13 people and wounds 70 more, and government officials say they expect the death toll to rise further. And Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands officially abdicates after 33 years on the throne and hands the reins to her son, who is now King William Alexander. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. Here are the details. On the occasion of Labor Day, His Majesty joined a celebration marking the day at the King Abdullah Industrial Estate in Sahab. Labor Day falls tomorrow, the 1st of May, but an official holiday will be observed on Thursday, the 2nd of May. Farah Ajlouni has a story.
His Majesty met with workers employed in various sectors through the National Employment Campaign, which King Abdullah launched earlier this year, and congratulated them on their day. He called on the estate's training institute, which provides specialized training programs in mineral industries, to meet market needs. The training center is considered a model in public-private partnership. Under an agreement signed between the Vocational Training Corporation and the Consolidated Contractors Company, some 850 laborers received training in specialized industries last year. His Majesty hosted a lunch in honor of the labor force at the Sahab Industrial Estate and listened to their views on ways young workers can upgrade their potential and ensure work opportunities that provides them with respectable livelihood. On behalf of the workers, Minister of Labor Nidal Qatamin thanked His Majesty for his attention to this sector, voicing their appreciation of his visit. He spoke of efforts underway to initiate policies and measures that would help replace foreign labor, currently saturating the work market with local labor through targeted training and rehabilitation programs. Farah Ajlouni for the news at 10.
And back here in Amman, His Majesty met with a visiting delegation of U.S. congressional aides to discuss bilateral ties and the situation in the Middle East. The King briefed the delegation on the effect of the Syria crisis on Jordan as a result of a huge influx of refugees who continue to flock into the kingdom each day. His Majesty urged for a political transition to end the bloodshed in Syria and avert the dangerous fallout on the region while safeguarding the country's unity. On the Mideast peace process, King Abdullah highlighted the U.S. leadership role in stepping up world efforts to restart Palestinian-Israeli peace talks based on a two-state solution. His Majesty also briefed the guests on Jordan's ongoing political and economic reforms aimed at bringing about a better future to all Jordanians. The U.S. team valued the King's efforts for regional peace and security and commended his leadership of Jordan's reform drive. Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour also met with the U.S. congressional delegation. Mansour briefed them on political reform, including amendments affecting one-third of the Constitution to ensure the separation of powers and strengthening the role of Parliament. He said in a key step leading to parliamentary governments, the King has relegated his role of appointing the Prime Minister to the lower house, where lawmakers nominate a Prime Minister and advise him on the cabinet lineup. The Prime Minister also spoke about the challenges of hosting hundreds of thousands of Syrian refugees on the country's resources, mainly the education and health sectors. Separately, Mansour welcomed his Yemeni counterpart, Mohammed Salim Basandwa, on a private visit to Jordan. Mansour commended the level of Jordanian-Yemeni relations and voiced hope for closer bilateral cooperation, namely in real estate development, as well as in higher education and medical tourism sectors. The Yemeni premier praised progress the kingdom has achieved in all areas, despite limited resources, and thanked Jordan for its role in restructuring the Yemeni armed forces after the revolution. In Washington, Foreign Minister Nasser Judeh discussed with U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry Jordanian-U.S. ties, as well as efforts to revive the Mideast peace process and the Syrian crisis. The meeting also focused on the outcome of a visit by an Arab Peace Initiative delegation to Washington and their meetings with U.S. officials. Late yesterday, Judeh participated along with an Arab League ministerial delegation in a meeting with Kerry and other U.S. officials. At the meeting, both sides stressed the importance of backing peace efforts to end the Palestinian-Israeli conflict based on the vision of U.S. President Barack Obama on a two-state solution. Following a deadly shootout at Al-Hussein bin Talal University in Ma'an, the Senate urged the government to draft a new law on weapons and ammunition to stop endangering people's lives. In a statement, the Senate said that yesterday's incident at the university campus is an indication of increasing violence among university students, which is having negative repercussions on national peace and the social fabric. It also highlighted the need to preserve security and stability among all segments of society, urging the government to shoulder its constitutional and legal duties to protect people's lives. 4 people died and some 33 others were injured yesterday in exchange of gunfire after a brawl involving 2 groups of students turned violent and out of control at the university. Al-Hussein bin Talal University also issued a statement explaining the circumstances of the deadly incident on campus yesterday and saying that the administration tried to contain the brawl, but that it quickly got out of control, leading to the exchange of fire. The statement said after the university president, deans and other staff members tried to interfere to no avail, they requested public security personnel to step in. Members of the gendarmerie arrived on campus and used tear gas to disperse the students, a number of whom were arrested. The statement continued. Al-Hussein University has called for setting up a security check on all university gates where all students and staff members will be subject to inspection as of next Sunday. The statement said the new security measure, valid until further notice, aims to prevent any future incident. And over to the Palestinian territory, where Hamas and Israeli officials escalated threatening statements at one another after a targeted Israeli attack killed a Palestinian in the Gaza Strip. And in the West Bank, a Palestinian official in the city of Nablus said Israeli settlers launched large-scale attacks in 4 villages in the territory, throwing stones and attempting to set houses on fire after a Palestinian killed a settler at the junction near Nablus. Zainab Sufa has a story.
Hundreds of mourners marched through the streets of Gaza City, carrying the body of Haytham al-Mashal, who was killed in a targeted Israeli airstrike while riding his motorcycle. The Israeli airstrike wounded another in the Gaza Strip in the first targeted attack against fighters since a ceasefire ended an 8-day war in late November. Israeli officials said the military had hit what it named as a jihadi who was an expert in manufacturing rockets. Locals in Gaza said al-Mashal was a member of Hamas's national security force, but relatives said he also belonged to a jihadist Salafi organization. Hamas spokesman in Gaza warned of the implications of such an attack.
We warn the Israeli occupation from the implications of this crime. We say that our brothers in Egypt, who are the hosts of the calm, should curb this aggression by the Zionist occupation, who are completely responsible for the implications of this crime.
Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed to continue to hit those responsible for rocket fire onto Israeli cities.
Today we struck at one of those involved in the criminal firing of rockets at Eilat. I say that we will not ignore this. Our action is in continuation of our policy. We will not accept the sporadic firing of rockets from either the Gaza Strip or Sinai. We will act, and are acting, in order to defend Israeli citizens.
Earlier in the occupied West Bank, a Palestinian man stabbed and shot dead an Israeli settler near the Palestinian city of Nablus. Palestinian officials said the Palestinian who committed the attack was released 2 months ago from an Israeli prison after serving a 3.5-year term. Jewish settlers threw stones and set a house on fire in villages across the West Bank just hours after the killing, angry at the military for failing to respond strongly to mounting stone-throwing incidents. At the village of Afrin, on the outskirts of Nablus, masked settlers set a Palestinian land ablaze. Palestinian villagers and stone-throwing youths reacted by going to hilltops, where they clashed with the settlers before Israeli soldiers arrived on site to disperse them with stun grenades and tear gas. Israeli police said 5 settlers were taken into custody. It was the first incident of an Israeli being killed by a Palestinian in the West Bank since 2011, while according to UN reports, at least 9 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli forces since the beginning of this year in various incidents, mainly in clashes that have risen sharply in recent months. Zain Abu Sufa for the news at 10.
In the ongoing violence in Syria, a bomb went off in front of the former Interior Ministry in Damascus, killing 13 people, including 9 civilians and 5 security men. Syrian state television said 70 people were wounded and expected the death toll to increase. Activists said 3 mortar bombs landed in the government-held district of Marja a few hours after the bomb. More on the blast in this report.
Chaos on the streets of Damascus after a bomb detonates on a main road in the Syrian capital. The target was not immediately clear, but the blast exploded near the former Interior Ministry building. State-run Surya television reported at least 13 killed and 70 injured. The British-based Syrian Observatory said 9 civilians and 3 security personnel had been killed, but anticipated that the death toll would rise. Pro-government channel El Ikhbariya broadcast instrumental music over images of bloody streets. Amateur video that cannot be verified by Reuters purportedly showed smoke rising above the city, caused by the bombing. The Interior Minister blamed rebels, saying the attack was a response to recent gains by the Syrian army around the city center. He also claimed the U.S. and Israel were directing the group behind the attack, which came a day after the Prime Minister survived an assault on his convoy. As the smoke cleared, some gathered on the street, chanting in support of President Bashar al-Assad. Syria's civil war, which started 2 years ago with protests to oust Assad, has claimed tens of thousands of lives.
Elsewhere, an airstrike on a headquarters of a Salafist rebel brigade at the main crossing point with Turkey killed at least 5 people and wounded tens more. A Turkish aid worker said the strike also hit a warehouse storing material for aid groups working in the area. U.S. President Barack Obama said he is still waiting for the facts on Syrian chemical weapons use, saying evidence of their use would cause him to rethink the options available as a response. At a White House news conference, Obama said the Defense Department already has prepared options that might be available in response to what would clearly be an escalation and a threat to the security of the international community. He said it will take time to conclusively render a judgment on whether a U.S. red line against the use of chemical weapons by Syria had been crossed, insisting that he's got to make sure he's got the facts. Calling it a game changer, Obama said what was still not known is how the chemical weapons were used, when they were used, and who used them.
By game changer, I mean that we would have to rethink the range of options that are available to us. Now, we're already, as I said, invested in trying to bring about a solution inside of Syria. Obviously, there are options that are available to me that are on the shelf right now that we have not deployed, and that's a spectrum of options.
Meanwhile, the chief executive of Oxfam Great Britain, which delivers development and humanitarian work in over 55 countries worldwide, urged for assistance to the governments hosting Syrian refugees. Mark Goldring paid a visit to the Zaatri refugee camp in Mafraq and inspected several locations, including water tanks which supply the refugees and newly established bathrooms. Speaking to reporters at the camp, he said about 7 million people are affected by the war in Syria. An Oxfam report, he added, is highlighting the real challenges to the lives and the well-being of people within Syria, as well as the refugees leaving the country. According to the UNHCR, an average of 2,000 Syrians cross into Jordan daily, and the number of Syrian refugees in the kingdom is estimated at 500,000. He said the organization is trying to work on two fronts to help the refugees.
The first has got to be to pressurise Syria to allow humanitarian access full and free within Syria, because if we don't do that, millions of people will suffer and die within Syria, but also millions more will leave Syria to come as refugees to places like this camp in Jordan. The second issue we're looking for is the international community to actually provide the money which is needed to help the governments of Jordan, Lebanon.
The 30th of April has always been an occasion to celebrate in the Netherlands, as hundreds of thousands of people fill the streets to cheer and celebrate Queen's Day. But this year, the Dutch not only celebrated Queen Beatrix's Day, but also welcomed the new king, William Alexander, following his mother's abdication after 33 years on the throne. More on the celebration in this report.
Tens of thousands packed Amsterdam's central square waiting for this, the moment Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands handed the throne to her eldest son, Willem-Alexander.
Willem-Alexander. Stand gedaan van het koningschap. 33.
Dear mother, today you resign from your reign, 33 moving and inspiring years for which we are deeply grateful, said the new king, thanking his mother for her service. After the announcement, the crowd joined the royal family to sing their national anthem and celebrate the Queen's retirement. Royal supporters were all too happy to flood the streets on the holiday the Dutch mark as Queen's Day.
I will miss Beatrix very well. But of course, this is because I grew up with Beatrix as a queen, as my queen. So yes, I will miss her very much.
I'm happy. I'm from Dillenburg in Germany, and I know the history a bit. I learned it when I was in the school, a little boy, and it's the first chance to see a new king born in the Dutch for me. It's perfect.
The 46-year-old new king is a water specialist and has 3 young daughters with his queen Maxima, who is from Argentina.
Italian Prime Minister Enrico Letta won a final confidence vote in his broad coalition government. His first mission is a European tour to push his agenda of growth rather than austerity to revive the recession-hit economy. He immediately set off for Berlin to meet Chancellor Angela Merkel, the champion of Europe's increasingly unpopular tight budget policies. Letta took the helm of an economy, Eurozone's third biggest, in the midst of a severe crisis, with unemployment at a 20-year high and the recession already matching the longest since World War II. To ease the pain of austerity, Letta has proposed freezing a planned increase in sales tax and suspending the housing levy opposed by his predecessor, Silvio Berlusconi. Stunning images from NASA's Cassini spacecraft provide the first close-up visible light views of a massive hurricane churning around Saturn's North Pole. According to NASA, the hurricane's eye is about 2,000 kilometers wide, 20 times larger than the average hurricane eye on Earth. Visible light views of the hurricane were seen in August 2009 after the passing of the equinox flooded the planet's northern hemisphere with sunlight. Scientists will use the hurricane on Saturn to study hurricanes on Earth that feed off warm ocean water. While there is no water close to the clouds on Saturn, scientists hope an understanding into how storm systems on the second largest planet use water vapor will shed light on how terrestrial hurricanes are created. The The Champions League semi-final second leg clash between Real Madrid and Borussia Dortmund kicked off a while ago at the Bernabeu, and so far it's a goalless draw. Real Madrid will be desperate to overturn the 4-1 defeat inflicted on them last week in Dortmund. Cristiano Ronaldo is playing tonight after missing their La Liga win over Atletico Madrid through injury. Dortmund are chasing a second European crown and a second appearance in the final after their 1997 triumph, while Real are bidding for a 10th title and a 13th final. Meanwhile, Bayern Munich go into their Champions League semi-final second leg at Barcelona tomorrow with a 4-0 lead, but are taking nothing for granted. Speaking at a news conference in Barcelona, Bayern coach Jupp Heynckes said he trusts his team and he knows they will give everything in tomorrow's match at the new camp. Elimination for Barca would leave La Liga as their only chance of silverware this season. And finally, for a quick look at the weather. Unstable weather conditions prevail tonight with a chance for local rain accompanied by thunder in the southern and eastern regions. Tomorrow it will be relatively hot with a continued chance for showers in the eastern region. Winds will be northeasterly moderate, stirring dust in the eastern and southern parts of the country. The Gulf of Aqaba can expect fair weather tonight, but hot tomorrow with northerly moderate winds and slightly choppy seas. Here now is a look at temperatures forecast for tonight and tomorrow. And to close, is a reminder of the day's top stories. His Majesty the King joins a celebration marking Labor Day at the King Abdullah Industrial Estate in Sahab and hosts a lunch banquet in honor of the estate's labor force. A bomb blast near the former Interior Ministry in Damascus kills 13 people and wounds about 70 more, and government officials say they expect the death toll to rise further. And Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands officially abdicates after 33 years on the throne and hands the reins to her son, who is now King William Alexander. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the news. I'm Alia Tuqan. Thank you for joining us and have a good night.